Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another session at Caprons Cabin. Today, we are discussing the last, the final, the ending of WandaVision.
This is
Capron,
the
how's it
end.
going?
It goes. Yeah, I don't want to focus totally on the negative, but I'd be lying if I said that was the knockout of the ballpark I was hoping for. But I had some concerns coming in, and yeah, I think some of them, unfortunately, were kind of where it went. But how are you doing? How are you holding up these days?
I'm surviving. I've had 2 days to think about this episode. Because I started off kind of annoyed with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I rewatched it and realized that I made the same mistake that we told people not to make in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to pull a movie out of a show.
Okay.
And I think my biggest issue with the end of WandaVision is I was expecting a big movie ending for a show.
Mm.
Now, that being said, by the nature of what WandaVision is and where it's coming from, this was Disney's first shot at walking that fine line between the end of a show and a movie. Because as a show, it has some pretty solid cinematic qualities.
Yeah. I will give it credit. They could have made WandaVision nothing but a glorified advertisement for Mountains of the Multiverse of Madness, or just like their other properties. This could have just been something that existed to basically, like a lot of the criticisms that came out for Age of Ultron with like Thor running off and learning about the Infinity Stones, that this sort of, just tell the story you're going to tell, as opposed to trying to sell me on the next 5 products by alluding to them in this one. I think a lot of what we've done here at the cabin for the prior 8 episodes is expect that. How is this going to set up the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which Marvel's kind of conditioned us to do. But yeah, I will give it credit for being a closed circuit for the most part, and for by the end of it having covered enough that I think it's hard to say because we are so engrossed in it, but I think somebody who was an outsider could relatively catch up by the end. There'd been enough flashbacks and exposition that if you were like, what is this thing? Do I need to watch 30 movies or 20 movies to get it? So I'll give you that. My headache with it comes more from some of the structure and rules of storytelling that they kind of either violated or I guess maybe failed at in doing that. But I'll kind of come back to that. Tell me more good things. I'm the negative Nancy on this one.
So the more I think about it, the more I kind of like what they did with it.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the ending I absolutely adored. It hit where I wanted it to hit. We had our big fight, but we had a very sweet moment of everything's closing back in.
Yeah.
The wrongs are being righted. And it's that emotion you expect from a Disney Marvel movie, where it's like kind of sad, but like they've accepted it. And you have that I honestly thought that it was gonna end with Vision saying "I only feel you" like he did in the last movie.
Yeah.
But I really like their moment. They had a good moment.
Absolutely. I think that Paul and Elizabeth, their acting was always the best thing about this show. And I think if you walk away from this show, before, like in the 2-day lapse for me, one of the things I ended up doing was watching or rewatching Lindsay Ellis's video essay on Game of Thrones, and how, it was kind of interesting that this thing we had invested, almost a decade into, several years, the ending was so bad in that it honestly has made everyone stop rewatching it. Like you can't go back and enjoy Game of Thrones because that ending just took the piss out of everything. And I don't think that WandaVision does that. But like when I first saw it, like I was like, is this another Game of Thrones? Like, am I ever going to want to watch these episodes again? And admittedly, I'm not sure that I am. But if you love those two characters, I can totally see why you absolutely would. Because, again, Paul and Elizabeth were stellar throughout it, especially Elizabeth Olsen.
The difference between, I think, WandaVision and Game of Thrones rewatchability. I won't rewatch WandaVision, not so much because it was a bad ending, but it suffers from the thing that, like, a lot of the reasons I don't replay video games. It's really good for that first watch, but a lot of the charm and amazement that came from it was from the lack of knowing.
Yeah. And that's actually slightly where my issue is. I think what WandaVision, if it is taken as negatively as I kind of took it, what its kind of artistic value is going to be is, I think it's a good study of 3 elements of storytelling and how maybe not to do them, which are Chekhov's gun, red herrings, which are kind of counterpoints to each other, and to a lesser extent MacGuffins, because I like right before we started recording, I realized that what I was thinking of as a MacGuffin isn't a true MacGuffin. So Chekhov's gun, just like most people know these, but just to keep everyone in the same place, Chekhov's gun is a theory from Anton Chekhov, the playwright, which is essentially the metaphor is, if you start the play in Act 1, you have a gun hanging over the mantle, then by Act 3, that gun better go off. If you set something up, pay off. Red herring, of course, is where you set something up and you don't do a payoff. And I think WandaVision did a lot of red herrings that are problematic, because a good red herring is something that plays on like your prejudice or your expectations in a way that it gets to kind of jab you with of course you thought it was this character, but that allowed this character to sneak in beside you. Like I think this is a controversial one, and I bring up a controversial one just to kind of emphasize how dangerous these are to use. The Last Jedi, you had this whole buildup of Rey. Rey is going to be somebody special, and then at the ending, they pull the rug out and say, no, she's just the orphan of scrap dealers. And the point of that was to tell you that heroes can be anyone. They backpedaled on that, and some people were happy about that, some weren't. But at least with that red herring, you got a sense of, there was a point to it. And so, as a red herring versus a Chekhov's gun is not fulfilling an expectation to an end. So, for example, we were both getting kind of excited about there may be, and I saw a lot of people were about there maybe being a third witch, with Dottie. And there are episodes early on that devote a lot of time to Dottie, and then at the end, Dottie's nobody. And so now, and it's explicitly that she's no one. And it's not just like, oh, I didn't get my theory. It's, okay, well then why did we spend time on her earlier on? Because there's no real lesson there. Paul Bettany gave a really fun joke. One thing I did like was Paul Bettany in an interview said, oh, in the last episode, I'm finally going to work with this actor I've always wanted to, work opposite. It was a joke. What he was referring to is he's going to have Vision on Vision. He got to work with himself. And yeah, there's a few others throughout it, but that to me is kind of the core thing with it. When I said a MacGuffin, which is where you have something that everybody's after that isn't in and of itself important, it's just something that moves the story along. I kind of felt like that was kind of what they were trying to do with Vision, because in the end, the Vision in the WandaVerse was incorporeal. They had Vision the whole time. We thought that was the reason they were trying to get into the WandaVerse, was to get Vision back, and they very much wrote it like that. And then at the last moment, when they couldn't get him back, they kind of wrote in that, they just needed Wanda's power to charge the Vision they had all along. It's a weird little plot hole where if the point was, everybody wants Wanda's power or something like that. So that one falls apart as a MacGuffin. I realized more really right as we were coming in here. So it was like, oh, I got to throw the script out. But Chekhov's gun versus red herrings, how to use them, how not to. I think this series set up a lot of things as Chekhov's guns. And then at the ending, like a really good one was the expectation of that it was going to be, Nightmare or Mephisto. I still agree, like we were talking about last time. It's great that Wanda is it. Like, it's just Wanda. So yeah, I don't know, that and there was a couple character parts I thought were done dirty. Agatha, they did a lot of little stuff with that made her a really fun, interesting villain. And then at the last moment, she throws a few lines in there like, you don't know what's coming, but she's just a villain at the end. And I really like the idea, like you said originally, like Agatha, I don't get as being evil. And then we kind of both were like, yeah, and I don't think she's gonna be. And then they're like, actually, she just is. And I think they're going to treat her like Loki, like they might bring her back years later to help fight a big bad or in the multiverse of madness, or who knows. But for now, like, that ending for her was raw. And the last one, and then I'll shut up, is Monica Rambeau. They did a wonderful job with up until that last battle. And this is something Gabriel pointed out to me when we were recording an episode, but was, they had her do this really heroic moment where she throws herself in front of the kids. And then at the ending, instead of it being just her like stopping the bullets and being the hero, they had to let one bullet go by so that the kids could show off their powers. And so they make this whole thing about the kids' powers just to kill them off. And that again just seemed like a wasted moment where that could have really just been Monica getting her scene. So I don't know, like, it was little nitpick things like that. But I think the core thing, you're absolutely right, is Wanda and Vision's closure was very moving. That's all I got for the moment. That was my rage. It's my oh, and another thing.
I'm gonna come at this from another side.
Okay, yeah, no, this is good.
I
like it when we don't agree 100% on things. It makes the episodes interesting.
Because when I watched it, I could, like, as I was watching it, I could see where people would be slightly disappointed. Mm-hmm. I watched this show as a heavy comic book fan and someone who intakes far more television than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
They did. So one of the biggest things to remember is that as good as this was as a standalone, like it closed its story,
Yeah.
it is further set up for a bigger universe.
Except
Also,
the
it's a comic. The biggest thing to remember, it's a comic book show.
Mhm.
Comic book shows have a habit, a very, very big habit, of mentioning things and then not coming back to it for a very long time.
Now, if they had done that, I would have been okay. But most of what they did was suggest an idea, get us all excited about it, and then pull it away. Like Ralph. Of all the ways you could have taken bringing Peter Evans in, whether it was introducing, the X-Men, which, I kind of said last time, like, okay, that's probably too much. We got excited, we got spoiled, we got greedy. But or maybe they're bringing back a multiverse, and then for all those different ways they could have used it, that actor, for it to just literally be the Wonder Woman scenario of, no, I just use this guy's body. That's not setting up something that they'll necessarily come back to. That was just fooled you.
Ralph, absolutely. I don't think they're gonna come back to him.
I don't think they're gonna come back to Dottie.
See, the other thing that it being a comic book show, when you have a show that's quotation marks nerdy or for nerds, the whole like jive of it is to stick in things just to make references. Agents of Shield did it. Arrowverse does it all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just to like get you a little excited. But Disney also is in a position where they have the money and the clout to test the waters with certain things and like basically fuck around with whatever they want. Like the Mailman, for example, which never turned out to be anything.
He never was anything.
See, but that
like
the
give me something.
That character could very well bet so much money he's gonna be mentioned in Winter Soldier and Falcon. He won't be relevant, he won't be talked about. They're gonna mention somebody going to witness protection. They won't even say Westview, they'll just say the state.
Yeah, now in fairness, like I've not complained about the witness protection loose end. Like that, I think that was either supposed to be some like fake order from SWORD to get them to investigate it, the phenomenon, or it's something that maybe will come up later. But it's not loose ends I'm complaining about. It's ends that it's satisfying payoffs. Like I said, not having a big villain, having it be just Wanda and Agatha, I liked that. Despite how hard I tried to play this as Mephisto, which was mostly just because it felt like this movie from the 90s. Like everyone was talking about Pleasantville, and I'm like, no, this is Stay Tuned, which was a movie about a guy getting basically cable from the devil, from Mephistopheles, and them getting trapped inside the television and it doing like parodies throughout the decades of each episode. I was like, they're playing off that movie with this show, right down to some beat by beat little elements, despite being not quite the same plot. Like I rode hard on Mephisto. Like we've memed me riding hard about Mephisto, and I was fine with being wrong about that. It's just when you set something up, like I said, when you hang a gun and you don't fire it, it's like when you have a paragraph about a gun, when you have a page about a gun at the beginning, and it doesn't end up telling us anything about any of the actual characters or the story. That's where I go.
See, the way I see it, it's just we know there's more coming to this universe. The biggest magic thing we got coming is Loki. And even the movies did the same thing. The movies mentioned Thanos once in 2012, and we did not hear back from anything about Thanos for 5 years. To the point where I deadass forgot that he was the big baddie for a bit.
Right, but again, that's holding off on something instead of making it the last episode. You definitively say the mailman was just a pizza delivery guy. Dottie is just a neighbor with yellow flowers, and I forget what the third one we were talking about was.
See, but yeah, they kind of allured to a lot of that, but how much of that do we just kind of jump to these conclusions ourselves? Especially Dottie. We all just kind of assumed Dottie because we were so entwined and everything has to be something.
I mean, same color magic, same last name, and had the same husband. Phil's the name of the husband of the witch. Everyone
Yeah, but
thought,
unless you're me or
and
talk to
they
someone like
cast
me, you're not
somebody
gonna know
from,
that.
and they cast somebody from frickin' Buffy who played a demon to do it. Like it's like Peter Evans. Like that was a stunt cast that kind of made you go, oh, stunt. Oh, that was the third thing was Peter Evans. But yeah.
But again, unless like I didn't know that she was a demon for Buffy. You didn't know half the comic book stuff until like you either looked it up or I told you. Like there's
Right.
those are things that like I can see them sticking in just to be like, these are things. Or like, because if it was me writing something like that, I would definitely do that just because I'm that much of a fucking nerd. And I think what happened was you had people like me who read way too much into it, who made up all these theories and wanted all these things to happen, but it didn't. And just that it's just that no one ever said otherwise. They just were like, yeah, I guess it could be. And for the most part, a lot of the stuff that we thought of, to the point that like you even called like scenes that would happen, like Wanda and Agatha throwing down at the beginning of this episode, or what the book was.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it was just we all jumped to conclusions. We all expected something, but no one ever told us we were. The only one that told us we were gonna get some shit and we didn't was Paul Bettany. Like he was like, other than that, a lot of it was just all of us. They made it so easy to jump to conclusions in the show. We all jumped to these amazing conclusions, and then when they didn't give it to us, we were like, "How dare you?" And they're just like, "We never said that this is a thing. This show is like a setup to a bigger universe."
What do you mean by they didn't say though, or what would have been
All they
them
did was
saying?
drop some names for some obscure characters,
Uh-huh.
and like maybe and like have some actors that have played
Yeah.
similar things in the past. Like the only one that they hardcore threw at us was Agatha, and we picked that like day one.
I disagree. Yeah, no, but I still think we're kind of focusing on not my bigger point, which was like the story flow things. Like I think that like the episode before we were talking about how are they going to end this, and we were saying like they would almost have to do a movie ending to tie up all the end characters that they've set up, or to be continue it. And I was like, otherwise we're going to have this ending where they make a lot of quick decisions that aren't satisfying. And I think they did that.
That I'll agree with. They did pretty much have quick tie-up endings to everybody. But again, I think part of that's because this is part of a larger universe.
No, but you still have to tell the story you're telling at the time you're telling it. Like, I think you're kind of stressing on this like I'm expecting the universe to be solved in this, but really what I'm getting at is when you make an entire show about kind of what's going on is the mystery at the ending of it, it's fine to have a simple ending, but when you package it like it could be these other things that excite fans, you have to kind of have a point to that ending being smaller. Like I said, with like Last Jedi, it was interesting to not have her be the son of Luke Skywalker or someone, but just a rat. And actually, when they went back and corrected it, a lot of people were kind of annoyed by that because it was like, no, you made a good point. Now what are we supposed to learn from this? nepotism. And I know I should pick a better example in Last Jedi because that one's a hot topic. But so my point is more just that, like, WandaVision is ultimately a mystery of what's going on until the halfway point, and really even beyond that. Like, it's only in the last 2 episodes that we know what's going on, and then what do we do about it? The ending. Yeah, I feel like if I'm going through for the storyline, I don't have much interest in, watching a bunch of episodes with cliffhangers with red herrings that don't, the only thing that it really you can take away from it is don't be a geek. Don't read the runes on the walls. We're going to put the runes on the walls. Yes, we know that they mean something in this language, and you know how to read that language, but don't read them. Like, that's the only lesson. Like, having it just be Wanda made the good lesson. Having Pedro not be the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that kind of got it. Having things like Paul Bettany tease us, that's fine. But overall, looking back at those early mystery episodes, I don't have I'm trying to think of like a good mystery where after the reveal, it's fun to revisit.
I don't know. It's honestly really weird that we're like flipped on this, because typically I hate when things are open-ended.
You hate these kind of things, that I love.
Yeah, which is a thing that baffles me, because honestly, everything that I care about and wanted answered, I feel like I have the answers to. But yeah, normally I'd be pissed as hell that like the way it ended, but I'm satisfied with it. But like I said, I think most of that's because I know that this isn't the last we're gonna see of Wanda. It's not the last we're gonna see a Photon.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's like we compared it to something at some point, and I don't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it was, but like, as long as I know that something else is coming, I don't mind the wait. But I feel like as like the way I I think of this show,
mm-hmm.
it was an 8-episode miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of miniseries that I've personally watched are not really made to be rewatched unless you're like showing someone to them. Like, I don't know if you ever watched those old sci-fi shows like Tin Man and Alice. They're great. I love them. They're phenomenal shows.
I have not seen Tin Man and Alice. I've seen like,
holy shit, you should watch them.
What is it called? I always get the number wrong. Not the 13th Kingdom, but the
10th Kingdom.
10th Kingdom. Yeah,
I have that entire series. I was about to mention that too. That's another one.
But I rewatched that. Believe it or not, even though I screwed up the name of it, like, that is one I will rewatch.
See, those 3 shows, I love rewatch. I have rewatched them, but I rewatch them after it's gotten to the point where I forgot what the plot is. Like Alice and Tin Man, I can't go back to right now. I know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mystery. 10th Kingdom, I don't remember for shit, so I do need to actually go back and rewatch that.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, those are like what I like miniseries like that. There's purposely not much more to them than what they are. They're not really made to rewatch, versus something like Doctor Who, Supernatural, where you can pick a cluster of episodes and go back to rewatch. It's like with anime, like the shorter the show, the less rewatchability is. But what comes with that is knowing that show is probably not going to be widely rewatched.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Disney, like, normally that's a dangerous thing to do, because you're not going to make money off of it. But Disney, being like the king of the world, they can throw shit like that out, make like nothing on it, and be like, it's cool. I mean, we just needed this to do something bigger and better. So I think one of the things that I'm doing to like make it better for myself.
But you have to make it better for yourself.
So whenever I watch a show, finish it, I always have to take some time to think about it, because I always hate a show when I finish it, either because it finished and how fucking dare they stop making that episode, or because like the ending wasn't what I wanted, and I have to think about like, okay, but this is what they were going for, and in that case, they did it. WandaVision was a show about
Mhm.
Wanda pretty much going through it was Wanda's therapy that she really needed and no one fucking gave her. Again, why didn't no one check up on Wanda?
No, yeah, and that would have been a great thing that they could have covered in this series, but they didn't.
Like I know everyone else is going through some mess, but like
Nobody checked up on Wanda.
check up on Wanda.
Exactly.
Like at least
But
Bucky and Falcon had each other.
yeah,
Ant-Man and Wasp had their family. Hawkeye
but
has his family. Like everyone had someone to go. Cap had his happily ever after. Yo,
yeah,
somebody check on Wanda, please. My girl out here struggling.
and that would have been a great thing for them to have done with this show. Like I appreciate that they didn't really have the ability, presumably, to bring in the heavies they kept like here's the thing: if they had packaged this show with none of the expectations of something better, I would have liked a lot of it. Like I really disliked that last episode. Like we can go at that forever, but my problems with that episode are story flow. It's not what is told, it's how it's told. It's what you put a ton of time and energy into versus what Monica and Wanda at the ending. It's like, oh, well, they'll never know what you sacrificed for them. It's like, bitch, like she enslaved a bunch of people and you're just gonna let her go now. Like that's what you're gonna do to Monica. Like she's got a better moral compass than that. Like I get like we'll have this fight another day, or like, you're gonna have to do more than that, as much as it sucks what you just did. Like you're still responsible and you're still dangerous.
See, I
But
interpret that very differently. I interpret that as like Monica was like, because I was thinking about the same way Monica was. Given the power, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't take advantage of having that kind of power.
Wanda
And again,
is
she was someone who was under like she had literally just like been erased from history. Watched the person she loves die a few times. She was going through it, so I can understand Monica being like, "I ain't gonna stop you now because no one was there when you needed it." And also, low key at that point, I don't think Monica could have stopped her if she wanted to. And I feel like
I
Monica
don't
knew that.
I don't think Monica knows what she can do yet. I think she's still
That's
learning.
exactly why I don't think she would have been able to stop Wanda if she tried.
Yeah. No, I mean, Wanda right now is terrifyingly powerful, and she's about to get even more terrifyingly powerful because after credits scene. Oh God.
See, that's the thing I like about Wanda. Like, it's Wanda has an understanding of like what it means to be a good guy and to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, she was never raised or trained to be a good guy or to be a hero. So as hard as she tries to be what like Cap wants her to be, she's still struggling with having this insane amount of power and the world continuously fucking her over.
Yeah.
Which that's some like deep psychological stuff that like I don't know if anyone else is thinking that deeply about it.
No, I mean, like I think I'm still very on board with her being sort of the Marvel MCU's analog for like a good Dark Phoenix story. Like I am fine with her going villain. I don't think, honestly, what was kind of surprising me was by the end of this, I felt like they were not going to make her go villain, and I kind of want her to. I want her to go a little down that road, but
I think the end credit scene showed us that she's capable of going down that road.
capable, but I don't think she will. That's the tricky part. I think
I
she
feel like
will.
she's gonna walk a real thin line.
I think she will do some shit to get her kids back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that is what will kind of be. We'll see. Yeah,
So,
I don't see her as like mustache twizzling, like I will take over the world, or the world is meaningless, I must destroy it. Like, no, she's going to be someone who will do bad to get what she needs.
let me ask you this, Capron, because
Yes.
And I'm completely guilty of this. It's actually the thing that I hate the most about myself, especially when it comes to animes. If a series has a bad last episode, I hate the
Uh-huh.
entire thing. So are you
Not
like, I don't know how you operate, but like, does that happen for you? Like, because you didn't vibe with, because you've liked every episode up to this point.
more or less, yeah. I mean, like generally, I would say I've liked every episode up to this point. I got nervous when like the last episode was the last episode before this finale, because I was like, that was a good episode, but somewhere in the past we should have cut fat so that this final episode could have more time to do what it needs to do. Otherwise, some of these things that you've made the audience invest in is just gonna be like, too bad, or wait till the next movie. And they're not things that you solve in a sequel. I use the example of Lindsay Ellis in Game of Thrones as like a case where that is true. The ending ruined the show for me, because I loved the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, and then I checked out because of the torture porn and rape, and the producer saying that, you know, a character got raped to give them character. That kind of shit. I was like, I'm done. And then the show started getting good again, and I kind of got reinvigorated. And then the last 2 seasons were just exponentially dumb to the point where the ending was just sickening. In general, although I would not say that that's the case, because I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and 2/3 to maybe even 4/5 of the last season of that show is hot garbage. I think the question with this would be more closer to saying, like, because you did not like WandaVision, will you quit the MCU? And the answer is no. Obviously not. And, you know, I might soften up to WandaVision more, but I do think, and I won't back down on this, I do think that it is a study in how not to do red herrings and the danger, you know, how to ignore Chekhov's gun. And maybe resolve some shit before your last episode so that you can focus on what matters in your last episode. Because yes, they did ultimately, the last chunk of it, understand that what they needed to focus on was Wanda and Vision, and they did a beautiful job of that. And in rewatches, I might warm up to it more in, you know, going, okay, but this is about them. But like the other characters, the world they built, it's frustrating. Like I don't like it. It might be a series where, like, I really don't like what they did with Agatha. Again, like, I thought they could have done more for her. And she is a case where, yes, they could go back later on and reuse her like Loki. But the thing with the original Thor, though, is, yeah, it does not really give you, other than a few glimpses of the potential, any idea how much Loki is going to become one of the most beloved villains of a decade. I mean, it really says something about my Marvel fatigue that I am not just like, oh my God, I want to see Loki. My point, though, is for that story, Loki does everything that Loki should do. And I think Agatha is not a ruined character. You know, this isn't really me raging. This is me going, I think they had something great and they kind of didn't stick the landing. And that's a shame, because it could have been, like, WandaVision had a chance at being one of my favorite things that the MCU has ever done. Like, that's where I'm coming from. Is this was really close to being something top tier from them. And I still think the acting deserves all the praise. But it's those little writing things that, as a writer, not that I could have done better, but as somebody who studied writing, really frustrate me with like manipulate with a purpose, and I don't think they did that a lot. I think they, yeah. So yeah, no, it's not like, oh God, WandaVision's hot garbage now. Nobody should watch WandaVision. WandaVision sucks. It's just, man, you guys were so close to something here that could have been more than really good.
See, I'm honestly kind of glad I hear you say that, because to me, WandaVision did, which could actually just be an issue with comic book stories in general. The reason why I don't mind it so much is because it did what every comic book story kind of does. It opens a bunch of doors, doesn't close many of them. That's a lie there. Doesn't mention it, but then like fucking watch us be like 52 or something. Our grandkids are watching this shit, and then like they're like, WandaVision season 97. By the way, this person's relevant, and we'll be like, oh shit. But I think honestly, I think that's just a comic book trope that works really well when you're reading, but I can see how it wouldn't work very well if you're trying to make a universe that people have to watch for a decade.
Yeah. But yeah,
again, like I think that just comes down to like, if you're me, like I fucking live for that shit. I absolutely live for trying to figure out like, is this a reference or is it not a reference? Or in the anime world, we go, is this a JoJo reference? You ready to close this episode out?
I think so. Like, we've kind of dealt a lot with this as kind of looking over the whole season, but overall, kind of final thoughts on the season. There's an old Coen Brothers bit from one of the few Coen Brothers films I don't like, called Burn After Reading, where at the end of it, the Simmons, the actor that played J. Jonah Jameson, just looks at the like catastrophe of the spy mission that's failed and just goes, what was the point? What was the lesson we learned in all this? What was the point of all this? So as somebody who like did enjoy it, but like I have some critical things where I just think like some writing stuff. But to you, I turn now as J. Jonah Jameson or whatever J.K. Simmons character was in Burn After Reading, and just go, what did we learn here? What was the point of this?
What we learned is that if you're gonna let normal people watch something this nerdy, you're gonna have to give them a bigger payout.
Fair. Yeah.
Because I think, especially after talking to you, I think one of the things is that for someone like me who's like immersed in this crap, I'm not gonna lie, they don't have to do much to impress me when it comes to comic books. Show me some fighting and I'm pretty satisfied. But on a deeper level, if you're gonna try to like make people get into this, you're gonna have to give them a bigger payoff than superpowers.
So like I heard this from a couple of the comic geeks online as well, and I kind of agreed with it. I would have actually been happy if this series ended without a fight.
I think that could have been a direction they could have went.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm mad that there was a fight at the ending, but I think they tried to, as much as the motivation of a lot of the characters was, let's throw down now. I think there was sort of it's a Marvel thing. We got to have the Rock'em Stock'em ending, where I think it would have probably been more interesting to deal a little less rushed with Wanda suddenly realizing, having Agatha show Wanda just how horrible what she was doing to everyone was. Like, they do that very quickly, and I was like, no, we need to linger on that a little more.
No one has had time to teach Wanda how to be a hero or even a good person. She said, like, the one small time she had, her brother died, then Vision died, then she got blipped from the universe, then the universe kind of half ended, then this mess happened.
Right.
So that's why I was kind of hoping Agatha wouldn't be the bad guy. Agatha would be the person.
Exactly.
Like, okay, Wanda, listen, child, fucked up, big time. Let's deal with this.
And I would have loved that too.
I don't think Marvel or superhero movies or shows in general I don't think they're ready to have the conversation that there doesn't have to be a big fight because they're so scared of like basically nerds being like, but superheroes are supposed to fight. I'm sorry, nerds suck. Nerds are really bad people. We as a nerdy people have not grown to be able to live that kind of life. And I'm gonna
And
need nerds to step up and start
yeah,
realizing that, especially if this is coming from me, the
yeah,
man that just fucks with just I'm happy just watching giant monsters fight giant monsters. But like I said, my biggest example is I'll watch Dragon Ball Z all day.
yeah.
I'll also fuck around and watch Steins Gate, which has zero action whatsoever. It is
Uh-huh.
heavily philosophical.
But here's the paradox. Like, no, and you know, we've talked about this before. You can have your junk food and your filet mignon too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, yeah.
My problem here is when we're talking about nerd culture, is what I'm talking about. If the basics of storytelling rules getting kind of jumped around is something we can't criticize, then nerd culture needs to lay the fuck off Martin Scorsese for calling it not cinema. Because this is how cinema works. These are the rules of cinema. If you want to play with the big boys, you got to take your knocks. The problem with WandaVision is it's kind of smart. So when it makes a mistake, it's that like inch away from greatness stuff, like I was saying before. But I don't know. Like like I think in trying to like make my point, and like I sound like I hate the show now, but I don't. I'm just saying like no, but like I think it is a good study of how not to do something in a few areas. Like we got to stop. We've got to learn this lesson eventually of don't try to solve all your shit with the last episode. It's not a bad show, but the pacing of the last 3 episodes really kind of missed the mark for me. And I think there were opportunities to have done this differently that could have been better. But I will see the next thing that Marvel produces. I will watch The Winter Soldier and The Falcon and The Loki and everything else.
I definitely think Marvel's going to end up using WandaVision as a valuable lesson of how to move forward if they're going to
Yeah.
continue making series versus
Yeah.
movies. And I hope they get it together before they get Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel series out because I cannot wait for that.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, everybody, this has been the final episode of. It's actually the final episode of me, Coco D, hosting Caprons Cabin. From this point on, I will be but a guest, joining Capron in his cabin.
You've given me the power.
It is now his show.
Yeah, no, I think the future of the cabin's going to be, you know, you kind of set a tone for where the show could go when you brought me the Martin Scorsese episode. But like, I do want to kind of go forward with more education based episodes mixed with like random geek stuff. Like, yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to doing more with you, both on as a guest on your show and you as a guest on mine. And yeah, this would not exist without you dragging me out of the cabin and going, let's talk about things. So hope I do you justice, man.
I love seeing like how it was one of the reasons I brought it up to you. I love seeing how we viewed each episode differently. Like you coming from like
Yeah.
a film student, a film director point of view, and me coming strictly from like a comic book point of view. Where
Yeah.
for the most part we were both equally satisfied, and I love the fact that when it got to the last episode, that's where we diverted.
Yeah. No, this has been a lot of fun. And again, I don't hate this show. I just have criticisms.
And I will concede the last episode was not what it should be.
Yeah, my upsetness is again because it is so close to great, and it's always hard for me when something gets that close and then misses it by just choices that it could have done differently. And it doesn't have to do with the way I want it done. I think the great thing about the show is it's done a lot of things not the way I wanted them done. We didn't get Mephisto. We didn't get the cookie. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. So we'll see. But yes, thank you very much for getting in on this. This has been a sanity saver.
Until the next time, you take care, my friend.
You as well. Adios.